Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the AMS Committee Resume Workshop. I'm Vivian and I'm the Vice President of AMS Committee for this year. This is our first workshop of the semester, and today we have a special guest, which is Jimmy Levin from the Career Center. He'll be hosting the workshop today and giving you some tips on how to improve your resume and increase your chances of getting your resume noticed by a recruiter. For me personally, Jimmy has reviewed my resume before, and I'm sure he has like a lot of great tips to share today. And yeah, Jimmy, you can start whenever you're ready.
That's a lot of pressure. So for any of you who have seen me present, you know that I am not Netflix, I'm network TV, and that means you get a quick commercial. I'm sorry, so just indulge me for a minute. So the Career Center, just a couple of quick things. I know some of you have engaged with our services, so you have some familiarity with it, but just a quick reference point. What I like to think of myself, guys, is I'm your GPS. I'm your Waze, your Google Map, you program me, and I will help you navigate your career path. But you have to drive. The heavy lifting's on you. I don't write your resumes. I don't write your cover letters. If I had a job or an internship in my pocket, I would give it to you guys in a heartbeat, but I don't. You have to find that, but I help you do that. I manage two communities at the Career Center, business, and then arts, communications, humanities. I'm not going to go through the structure of the Career Center. I'm going to spare you that. But I just want to tell you, with all the services that we provide, everything, of course, is virtual right now. What we represent for you is opportunity. And Vivian knows because she's a part of our team. So she's experienced firsthand who we are, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and what our added value is. So I just want, for those of you that are thinking, struggling with career path, have questions with your resume, how to present it, how to brand it, all of that, I'm the guy you want to come talk to. So you can go into Handshake. That's our tool. That's our communication mechanism. You can go into Handshake, go to the business community. My name will pop up. I usually create 3 to 5 weeks in advance appointment blocks, so they fill up quickly. I'm a popular guy. But if you're interested, make an appointment and come see me. All right. So that's it. Commercial's over. Oh, one last thing. The job fair, guys. February 26th is the Business Communications and Journalism Job Fair. If you are at all thinking about shopping for an opportunity, you should register for the event sooner rather than later because it's virtual. And each employer, there are about 40 employers listed right now, big brands, little brands, and everything in between, companies you'll know and companies you won't know. But they do represent opportunity. So go look, schedule a 10-minute session with a hiring manager from Amazon, Geico, Broadridge. We've some good companies coming, PSE&G. So there's a lot of activity there. And what you guys are studying, every industry needs. Know that. Every industry needs what you're learning to do. You don't need to be on a straight line from here to the bank or Wall Street or corporate or finance. You can work in sports, media, entertainment, technology, healthcare. Every industry needs the skill you're learning. So your landscape is wide. Enjoy that view. What's going to scratch your itch? That's a question you should ask yourself and go with it. Okay, now I'm done. All right, so let's do a share screen. Whoop, we don't want that. We want that. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yep. This is yes, and this is no. For those of you that are not showing yourselves, if you wouldn't mind, I would love that. I don't care what your hair looks like or if you're in your PJs, but it's more fun for me to see faces. So I won't demand it, but I'd love to see you guys. So let me go to a big screen. All right, we can still see it. Vivian, you still see the screen? Okay, Lolita, good. All right. So resume workshop. I'm going to walk you through what all of that means. And if you have a good resume, then you will hopefully get an opportunity to meet this guy right in front of you because he's the boss. This is who you need to impress, the boss. So I'm very proud of this photo. I took it myself. I don't want you to think it was me 100 years ago. All right, so this is our resume. What we're going to cover tonight, guys. What is a resume? Why? These are questions you should be asking yourselves. If you've got a resume and you're happy with it, great. If you feel you want it reviewed, I'm again the guy that would be able to help you with that. Vivian said earlier, I helped her review her resume and got it in pretty good shape. But these are questions you want to ask yourself. What is a resume? Why do you need a resume? What should it look like? And what is the information that you should include on there? And I'm going to just get interactive here for a moment. And Vivian, you cannot answer the question because you probably know the answer because you're a student of the Career Center. But I want someone to unmute and take a shot at this. What is the primary directive of your resume? It serves a number of purposes, but what's the primary directive? Who's going to take a shot? Unmute and go for it. No.
To get an employer interested.
Say it again, Hugo.
To get an employer interested in you.
Well, that's certainly one of them. You want to meet that little boss, the guy that we opened up with. The primary directive, good answer, but the primary, it's to get you an interview.
All right.
You want them to fall in love with you on paper. That's what your resume is supposed to do. It's supposed to engage them almost immediately, almost immediately. And if they're engaged, they're interested. And that's what it's about. They like you on paper, they're going to reach out. So that's what we wanted to do. So what is a resume? 1 or 2 page document, and this is by definition. You could Google this, you could look it up on Wikipedia. This is pretty much what it will tell you. 1 or 2 page document that sums up your backstory. What is your backstory? Your qualifications, your skills, the abilities you have. I call it skillability, my own little word. Experience that you've had, your education. Do not include high school. It's irrelevant once you're a university student. The hiring community doesn't really care. On a rare occasion, a freshman who is might have a specialty in science, tech, engineering, went to a special high school. It may have some relevancy there. Beyond that, you don't need that. Your resume, guys, is a marketing tool that represents you. When you are looking for a job or an internship, make no mistake, you are the brand, you're the product, you are the service. And you are marketing yourselves. No different than this company wants to introduce a new flavored water. They're going to know the marketplace, where they belong, where they fit. That's what a brand strategy is all about. You're the brand. If you don't have a strategic plan when you're looking for or thinking about your career, you're going to be a step or 2 behind those that do have a plan. And the plan starts with knowing your market, but it begins with, the foundation is your resume. All right, it's the first impression. It's the first point of contact. Think about this. There is no shot at a second impression. That's why we call it a first impression. If you don't engage the hiring community, the hiring manager, human resource, talent acquisitions, operations, who's ever managing hiring, if you do not engage them from the get-go, they will use their favorite 4-letter word, and that is next. They will move on. So understand the significance of what this piece of paper does on your behalf. It's the document that impacts and engages, right? And here's one of my little slogans. If there's no impact, there's no interest. Know that. I spent 10 years in recruiting. I still have a little bit of a side hustle where I do some talent acquisition work for boutique business for a couple of small clients of mine. And I will tell you that if I put a resume in front of them and it does not create an impact, there's no interest and they will move on. All right, so there are 3 types of resume. The first one is really what applies to you guys. Chronological, exactly as it says. You organize by date and you always start with your most current information first. I will show you a sample of a good resume when I'm done, but I just want you to understand sort of the mechanics of what this means. So chronological, always organized by the information, whether it's education. If you're a transfer student from Suffolk community, you're going to lead with Stony Brook, followed by the information supporting what you're doing at Stony Brook, your major and so on. Suffolk community would be next. Same thing with your work history, the most current thing first. So it's a detailed, it's a comprehensive summary of your education, your relevant coursework, that's what the CW is, coursework, your employment experience, your achievements, and your skills. The other two, I'll go through them quickly. Functional. Typically, it's geared towards a very specific market. Now, you might think, well, I'm after a specific job, market, industry, job title. Trust me, for a student, you want to stick with the chronological. It's the easiest way to present who you are at this stage of your life. And a combination is really exactly what it is. It features a combination of both elements. So you can think about your basic resume, the chronological information, and if you really are looking to target specifically, you could integrate some of that functional stuff. So here's some guidelines that you need to think about. All right, supporting specific career objective. What are you thinking about? What's going to scratch that itch? I mentioned earlier, I opened this whole thing up with, you do not need to be on a straight line from here to corporate, the bank, and so on. Maybe you do want to work in sports, media, entertainment, technology, or any other industry. You've got to understand what your career objectives are. What are your goals? What are you looking to achieve with your career? Now, you think about when you build a house, guys, you build from the foundation up. The first thing we do is pour a foundation and we build up. Your career development is the same thing. You start from the ground up. So if you don't have in your head career objectives or goals, that's something we need to talk about. There's a sign behind me, right there, if you can kind of see in black and white lower down, that says, never say, I don't know. Always say, I'll find out. If you don't know, I'll give you exploratory exercises to help you find those targets, those objectives, those goals. But if you don't have those, how are you looking for a job? How are you figuring out what your resume should look like? All right. So the achievements, accomplishments, always amplify your accomplishments. Proactive, success-oriented language, that'll come up later. Some of you are probably familiar with some of that, the action verbs that we want to use, but you'll see some samples of that coming up. I have a 3P rule, guys. Now, I know every time I say this, everybody pulls out their pen or their tablet because they want to write this down. I promise you, you'll remember this, but I have a 3P rule when I say no typos. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Before you hit send or submit, you like that, Lolita, I can see. Before you guys hit send or submit, there's no excuse. You have spell check, Grammarly, it's right there, grammarly.com if you're not familiar with it. It'll help you with sentence structures. It'll fix things for you. There is no excuse, and I will tell you, coming from the recruiting community, talent acquisition, typos will bury you. The basic attitude on a typo, and typo doesn't mean misspelled or grammar, can be that, but formatting, lack of consistency, bullet points here and no bullet points there. If the consistency is off, nothing's aligned, that represents you in a bad way. And the hiring manager is going to think, well, if they represent themselves this way, remember, you're branding yourself, you're marketing yourself. And if they're going to brand and market themselves this way, what the heck are they going to do for me? Once you put that red flag up in front of a hiring community, you're done. So I need you to pay attention. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Single page is preferred, but you sometimes, there's plenty of students who have just got a long history. Their story is their story. And if you have a second page, that's cool. Don't worry about it, because there really is a lot of anxiety over the one-page rule. We prefer it, and at your age, it makes sense. But again, a lot of students in technology, research, development, they've got a lot of project work, and it's relevant to what they're after. It might include a second page. If you do that, please make sure you have your contact information on page 2. If they were to separate on someone's desk, they might not know who it belongs to. And if page 1's all they got, excuse me, you're not telling your entire story. Now, your story is what this is about. A lot of students will come to me and say, Jimmy, I spent 3 years as a camp counselor. I really want to work in a bank. There's no alignment there. There's plenty of alignment there, and I'll get to the transferable skills in a bit as well. But here's the deal, guys. Your story is your story. You cannot change it. You can't cheat it. You can't lie about it. You embrace it and you tell it, period. And if it doesn't get you the A-list job, it's okay. You can take the B or the C or even a D-list job just to get that real-time experience that you feel you don't have and it might be necessary. It's all good. That's part of the strategic plan I was talking about. Continue that plan throughout your career development. It's a process, one step at a time. So you tell your story, you embrace it, okay? Relevant and recent. If you're not relevant, they don't want you, they don't need you, there is no impact, and there's certainly going to be no interest. You've got to be relevant. Skills, how you present it, all of that. Now, by the way, if anyone has questions, of course, I'll do Q&A at the end, but if you have questions, just unmute. I don't see everybody in this format. I only see 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 faces. So don't be shy, unmute, just give a shout, okay? So the essentials, the anatomy of a resume. When you apply, these are the essentials. You read the job description, JD, job description, and you customize. You customize your resume. I have students, and in my consulting business, mid and senior level executives say the same thing. Jimmy, I applied for 10, 20, 40 jobs, haven't gotten one response. Something's not right. My job is to identify what's not right. If it's broken, I need to fix it. I'm a sports guy. So my analogy to that is when the game plan is not working, the first thing the coach does is change the game plan. So I assess what you've been targeting and what does your resume look like. If the alignment is not there, you're not even going to get through the system. So think about this. When you hit send or submit, your resume is captured by a talent acquisition software. Talent acquisition software is managing your credentials now. It's keyword driven, no different than a Google search. You type in Google words or words for Google search, boom, your data, your information pops up. This is no different. So you must pay attention to the language being used in the job description. I will call that industry fluency. Be fluent in the marketplace you're interested in. Talk in that language. You can always tweak your resume with a few keywords. Now, you don't need 20, it could be 3, it could be 5. Subtle is fine. Excel could be one of those words, believe it or not. PowerPoint could be one of those words. Communication. There isn't a job description, with very rare exception, there isn't a job description out there that does not include communication, time management, or multitasking skills. So that camp counselor I referred to before, they're a master of communication and time management because that's what they're doing all day. They're managing children's schedule from activity to activity to activity. That is time management. For any of you that are engaged in extracurriculars like this club, you're a student, you do have a social life. I realize it's Zoom, but it's still a social life. You may have a job, you're engaged with student activities, you're managing time, talking points on your behalf. All right, make that stuff clear. So you read the job description, customize it, paying attention to the keywords, tweak it, integrate that into your resume. Design and layout. Now think about this. This is the essentials now. When your resume is in the hands of the hiring manager, if it's a mess, if it's sloppy, if the formatting, as I said before, is inconsistent, you're out. You're done. You're just not even going to get a second breath. First impression for a reason. I said that earlier. I will repeat it because it's important. So you've got to look at the aesthetics of your resume. Look at the aesthetics of your resume. All right, now here, the anatomy. In the one spot would be your contact information. Is there anyone, and this is not to embarrass anyone or put anyone on the spot. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. But is there anyone in this group that does not have a resume? You all do, right? Good. So you have a resume, then you know on top it's your contact information. Your name, your email, your phone, LinkedIn. That's essential. Address today, the trend is you don't need it. The main reason is, in the event they like your resume and they're going to reach out, they're going to call you or they're going to email you. They're not going to send you a letter in the mail. It's not going to happen. And if you get a job offer or an intern offer, you're going to receive a PDF on your desktop with the agreement and all the information for the new hires and all that. So mail is somewhat obsolete in this world. Optional. If you want to include it, do it. The other side of that, the other reason is, and it's a rare shot, but it does happen, and that is location discrimination. If you live way out east, Stony Brook or further east, and you're looking for a job in New York City, a hiring manager might say to themselves, again, rare, but it does happen, you know, this guy lives way out east and in bad weather. Are they going to be able to get into the city? You know what? Let's hold off on this resume and see what else we have. So my recommendation, don't include it. Now you see the blue on email and LinkedIn. You must hyperlink those two elements. The reason is human resources, hiring managers are basically a lazy culture. And why would you want them to have to cut and paste your email so they could send you an email? If it's hyperlinked, they click on it, they send you their email, and you're good to go. So in the to spot, if you choose to do it, would be a summary, a career profile, career objective. That too is optional. Most students don't do it, but you can. You might say, okay, Jimmy, what does that look like? What is a career profile? It's 2 to 4 lines about your objective or about your specialty, maybe highlighting 1 or 2 skills, college, soon to be college graduate or senior university student majoring in XYZ, interested in career in PQ and R. It doesn't have to be a long-winded, eloquent novel, just a quick little something. But again, most students don't do it. So the to spot, assuming you don't do summary, would be education. And again, I will show you a sample of a really good quality resume later on. But education, what your major is, what your minor is, expected graduation, GPA, relevant coursework, what supports your education. All of that would be detailed in the number 2 spot. 1 is contact, followed by education. Again, most current stuff first. Now, some students will ask me about GPA. Should I show it? If it's good, show it. There's no reason not to. Clearly, if you think it's weak, don't show it. You know, it's not an automatic assumption. Oh, they didn't include their GPA, therefore it's not a good one. Don't worry about that. You cannot worry about what the hiring community is thinking. You put your best story out there. You hope that it makes a connection and engages them to a point where they're going to call you. So don't get stuck on the GPA. Again, if it's good, pop it in there. Not good, it's okay. Now, any kind of additional training that you've had, online courses, that would be included in education. And that's good stuff to show. The reason is, A, clearly you have more skills educationally. You have more knowledge of something. It may be very relevant to this specific internship or job you're after. That's targeting. But it also shows the hiring side that this student is engaged. They'll go the extra step to learn more. Okay, they're a full-time university student. That in of itself is a lot to do. And yet, he took the opportunity and made the time to learn, I don't know, Photoshop, whatever it may be. Okay, so any of that information is included in the education. Now, the 3 spots going to be your work experience, so jobs, intern, research, volunteer. Any of those categories are legitimate work experiences. Research is a good one. Now, when COVID first hit, we were all pushed out of our jobs to work at home, whether we're in academia or in corporate, creative, it didn't matter. We were all bumped out and now at home. So it changed a lot of what we did and how we did it. So a lot of students ask me, well, you know, I had an internship and they rescinded the offer because of COVID. What am I going to do? One of the things that I preached, advocated, and encouraged students to do was create a project. Everybody has that light bulb moment where they go, boy, I'd love to do X. Go do it. Go find a faculty member to help you with it. Go find a partner, a friend, whatever. Do a research project. It's legitimate work. And again, the messaging, remember the brand messaging on your behalf. These things go a certain distance on your behalf. The hiring community reads into this stuff. They do. They read into it and understand the messaging behind it. Now, after the work experience, extracurriculars, leadership clubs, organizations, you guys are members of this. So you can say AMS member, AMS president, secretary. And if you've got roles, responsibilities, detail some of that in bullet point. Let people know what you did. Tell your story. Don't cheat yourself. A lot of students don't tell everything. When I look at resumes and I see leadership stuff, I'll ask questions to a student. And all of a sudden they're talking about all these amazing things they did, none of which are on the resume. And when I ask why, I don't know, or I don't think it's relevant. I didn't know it was relevant. It's definitely relevant. It shows substance. And that's an important piece for a student resume. It's not just the job, the skills, and so on. Substance is good. Substance is really good. So awards, certifications, any kind of special acknowledgements, Dean's List, maybe you got a presidential scholarship award or something like that. Any one of those things also speaks for you and on your behalf. And the messaging behind it is quality substance. Now, skills. Hard skills are always what we lead with. What are hard skills? Technology and language. So technology. You would say, and this is a very common mistake, and I mentioned keywords before. I said Excel could be one of those keywords. So hard skills, technology, Microsoft Suite, parentheses, PowerPoint, Excel, comma, Google Doc, comma, Adobe Suite, comma, and so on. Whatever they, I'm brain freezing on different softwares, but you would include all of those. If you had a job at a company and there was a proprietary software they worked with, even QuickBooks, you would include that because, believe it or not, that is a tech skill. If you speak more than one language, you would say fluent English and Hindi, whatever it might be. If it's third language, you'll include that as well. So those are your hard skills. You don't need to say hard skills, you'll just say skills. And then you'll lead with the tech and so on. Now, the reason we include in parentheses Excel and PowerPoint is because they could be a keyword aligning you, creating that symmetry between you and the company. It might say on the job description, must be proficient in Excel. Well, there's one more word that connects you to them. That's important. The transferable skills. Now, I mentioned before the camp counselor. That's a common one that comes up, and that's why I use it as an example. Think about this. I hired this young person to manage and ensure the safety of 27-year-olds 5 days a week. That alone says something about integrity and trust. That on its own is pretty good stuff. They're not going to hire a Looney Tune to watch children. They want someone who they feel has substance and a quality about them that they can trust. Now, they get to camp and they're talking to their supervisor or the head counselor or whoever it might be. Today's activities are XYZ. Now they go to their 7-year-old and they, hey guys, today we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Communicating all day, older, younger people. Now they are from activity to activity, managing the clock, time management. Clearly, they're going to be multitasking. After swim, some kids can't get themselves dried up and get dressed and for the next activity while others are. They're managing a couple of things at one time. So that's a multitask thing, not a bad quality. Problem solving, that's what the PS stands for by transferable. Problem solving is one of the top 3 transferable skills. If you're working with 7-year-olds all day, without question, there'll be a conflict. Somewhere along the way, there'll be a conflict. Your job is to identify it, diffuse it, create a solution, and move on. So think about this. You're a leader. You're leading these kids. That's a great transferable skill. being a critical thinker. You guys are AMS students. You understand what the essence of data is, what the significance of data is, what it could mean for somebody. Decisions are made today on data. Data is king. Nobody does anything anymore without the data. Vivian knows that firsthand. All right, I'm going to take a little breath. I'm going to take a sip of water. Does anyone have a question? Okay, then I'm moving right along. So here's some additional information. You must have a universal document. When you create your resume or your cover letter, we call that a universal document. But as I said earlier, you're going to customize it as per the job description. What are the keywords? Where's the symmetry between you and them? Job description, your resume. If there's no symmetry there, the talent acquisition software will create a file on you because that's what it's designed to do. But it won't put you through onto my desk. And if you're not on my desk, you're not being seen. So the cool thing is you're in the system and you may come up at a later date on a different search. That would be wonderful, but you're interested in something now, not later. So you have your universal document and you're going to tweak it as necessary. Customize it as per the keywords, the industry fluency. Remember the talent acquisition software, align it. You need to exhibit a knowledge towards the marketplace you're after. And that's why I don't know is not acceptable. I'll find out. Boy, I'm interested in X. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. No, I'll find out. Research it. You guys have grown up in this world. You've grown up with a touchpad and a keyboard. One thing you know how to access is data, information. All right. So conveying success, not just a task, that's important to think about. In your bullet points, the support information, you want to be able to show them quantitatively some success. So maybe you worked at a company and you were engaged with sales, and maybe you raised, retail, who knows? You could have worked at the Gap or Home Depot, doesn't matter. But you did something that was significant and you bumped up sales numbers. That's a quantitative success story. Let people know what you do. Tell your story. Embrace it, tell it. Amplify the accomplishments, results, quantification. That's what that means, conveying success. Accomplishments, results, quantification. You need to demonstrate as best you can, and this is not easy for everybody based on their backstory. We're all different. Now, when I show you this resume sample, a lot of you are going to go, whoa, that's a great student resume. I don't have anywhere near that kind of stuff. I'm not showing it to make you feel inferior. The content's not the point or the purpose of showing it. It's the format, the aesthetic, the look. But not everybody can be and demonstrate the ability to show achievement. Added value is everything, guys. Added value. Remember I said before, when you're looking for a job, it's not about you, it's about them. What value are you going to bring to them? That's a message that you need to show in your resume. Be articulate, be on point with what you're saying, be economical. Less is more, and more is almost always too much in a resume. Font size, 12 is preferred. Headers, 14 to 16. If you don't know what I mean by header, I'll show you that in a bit when I get to the sample. Your resume should align with a LinkedIn profile. If any of you in this group do not have a LinkedIn profile, I'm imploring you to set one up ASAP. Just some fun facts about that. 50% of the hiring community, guys, won't even touch you if you don't have a LinkedIn profile. If they like your resume or they're curious about you, the next step is 99% of the time LinkedIn. And if you don't have a LinkedIn presence, an online presence, they're going to pass on you. 20% of the hiring community will pass if you don't have a photo. And the data supports all this. And the photo is not to see if you're male, female, green, blue, black, brown. It has nothing to do with that. It personalizes things. It gives me an opportunity to make eye contact with a person. That's why I had requested for those of you who had the black screen in your initials, show yourselves. It personalizes things. It's really important. So you got to make sure that your resume is aligned with your profile on LinkedIn. And always know this. I mentioned before, you can tweak and customize your resume. Don't lie on your resume. You'll always get caught. Honesty is always the best policy, always. So here's some of those action words: achieved, exceeded, pioneered, created, demonstrated, developed, directed, established, on and on and on. Now, if you go to this website, this link there, and by the way, if you want me, Lolita, to send you this presentation, I will, and you can share it. I'm okay with that.
Oh, that would be great. And yeah, I can post it on the AMS website.
Right,
So
so
that
I will send you, just while we're doing this now, Lolita, I will send you this, probably in the morning, not tonight, but I'll send you a copy of the PowerPoint. I will send you a sample resume, and I'm going to send you a handout I created on the top 15 search engines for jobs. LinkedIn, Simply Hired, Glassdoor, names you know, but you guys should have access to this information, and this way you can share it with the group.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll post it on the AMS website afterwards.
You know, and I send the package, it's $29.95. No, I'm kidding. All right, so these are some of the action verbs, and this link down below takes you to the Career Center's website, and all of this information I'm talking about is in there. It's not presented anywhere near as nicely as I am, but it's in there. And you need to have an awareness of this, because when you are ready to hit the streets and shop for that internship or that job, the first thing you have to have is a quality resume. All right, so I'm done now with all this. So I'm gonna not stop. I'm gonna get rid of this, and let's get this. All right, can everyone see this resume? Is it big enough to see? Good.
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to scroll. You see my cursor. This is a real student resume. I've changed name and contact information. So just so you know, I don't know who Anita James really is, and I don't even remember whose resume it was, but it's a real student resume, and you see expected graduation May 22. So, but here it is: contact information, phone, center bullet point, slash, vertical slash, backslash, doesn't matter, something that separates, hyperlinked email, bullet point separating, LinkedIn URL. Boom, there it all is. So here's your education. This is the header: education, employment, internship, and activities, and so on. Those are the headers. You want that font to be slightly larger than your basic content information. So I'm guessing this is probably a 4. Oh no, that is a, come on, no way. That can't be an 11. Oh, it is. It should be a 12. My bad. That should be at least a 12, and the support information is an 11, which is acceptable. But let me show you the aesthetics, the formatting. You'll see that all the bullet points are neatly and cleanly aligned. You'd be surprised what I see. I'll see bullet points here. I'll see them in here. It zigs, it zags. All the dates neatly hit the right margin line all the way down. Now, why is that important? 2 reasons. We read left to right, guys. That's how our brain processes. We read left, right. So if I'm a hiring manager, I see Anita James, boom, 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 contact information, Stony Brook University. To the right, expected graduation. Many people put expected graduation or graduation underneath here. And then what you have is a lot of dead white space. So I mentioned the aesthetics. It's important. What this resume does is it balances out. It's maximizing the use of the paper laterally, left, right, vertically, top, bottom. And if you look at it, it really lays out perfectly. The margin line, this margin is a narrow margin setting. So if you have less information, you might want to set your margin in a normal setting, which is roughly about 1 inch on the left and right. This is narrow, it's about 1/2 inch, but it gives me plenty of room to work left to right laterally. So Dean's List, now this was a transfer student, so you see here's the most current. This was prior to that, employment. Here's all their information. And now you'll see here, there's no periods after any of these bullet points. That's consistency in formatting. It's very common because we instinctively, as we type, put a period at the end of something, and then we don't. That's a typo. That's a format issue, and some people will read it and see it, and they won't like it. So be consistent in how you lay things out. And again, these are just very tight economical bullet points supporting what they did as a swim instructor, babysitter, and so on. Animal shelter, location, date. Here's the title of what they did: swim instructor, volunteer. Now here's internship and leadership. You can combine, you can be creative. I laid out a foundational structure in my presentation, but clearly there's no resume police, guys. You won't get arrested if you change it. I don't want you to feel, well, Jimmy said XYZ, therefore I've got to do XYZ. You can take some license here and make it work on your behalf. And if you have questions, you just send me an email. That's okay. Please don't send me your resumes and ask me to review them unless we're doing a follow-up. If you need me to review your resume, you go to Handshake and make that appointment. But again, back to the format. So here's internship and leadership experience. This is something Delta Sigma. This is one of our on-campus fraternities. And this is someone who was a representative, and they had support stuff they did. And here it all is, right? Delta Sigma, another fraternity, business fraternity at school. This was a president and member. So also looking at the dashes in between the dates, consistent all along. Sometimes you'll see people, they'll do the 2019 space dash no space September, or vice versa. All the same, every single one. That's important. There are plenty in the hiring community that will look at those little subtle mistakes as a problem. And if it's a problem, you're done. So again, support information. This student clearly has a lot of activity going on at our university. Business honors program, plan and execute. Execute, another one of those action words. Plan, execute. Experiential project. So here, this is a project they did. This is no different than the research stuff I talked about before. This is all good stuff supporting who you are, what you do, where you did it, who you did it for, and what's really important, can they do that for me? And if you can, you then represent added value. And that is an engaging quality that gets the hiring community interested in you. So here's another example of stuff they did. Obviously, not this was abroad, Florence, Italy. So what does that mean? Florence, Italy. That's pretty cool. It takes courage to go away. That's a long way off. That's not like going to Boston. So there are plenty in the hiring community that would look at that as, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. There is a certain level at that young age, courage to go far away, different culture, living in a different environment. Those things are big, and they're good talking points again on your behalf. Activities, organizations, some additional stuff they've done. Clearly they were just members. And here's your skills: Google Suite, Microsoft Office, Excel. I'm assuming PowerPoint they're not good at, otherwise I got to believe they'd include it, Photoshop and so on, proficient in Spanish language. So this is really what we would consider a pretty good resume, guys. And this is an excellent roadmap to follow. So I want to talk to you about templates. A lot of students use templates. So Google resume samples, a zillion things will come up, and you find this attractive template. A couple of things you need to know. And a lot of you guys are in Google Suite, and a lot of you create documents in the Google world. Please don't do it. If you don't have access to Word, that's different. But if you have Word, create your resume in Word, save it in Word, save it as a PDF. You can always upload it into Google and share it if that's what you need to do. Why do you do that? Google is a very wonky system, and it does translate differently in different operating systems. I'm a Mac guy at home, where I am now. At work, at the university, I have a PC. Many documents I get in Google Doc on this computer will look different on my PC at work. You must be able to control your information. You go through the trouble to create a good resume, to target it, to customize it. You want to make sure what you're sending is what you intend them to see. Google will not ensure that. So please make your resume in Word. Now, template. Templates are a default. You can import your information in, but it has to be the way the default mechanism is set up in the template. You cannot change it. It's very difficult to customize your resume. It's prohibitive from you keeping a very fluid, streamlined approach to what you need to do. You don't want to have to be restructuring your resume in a difficult way every time you apply for something. It needs to be quick and get done efficiently. So if there's a template that you like, and they're attractive, I know they're duotone, they've got blue type and then a little black and a little gray, a little this, a little that. They're attractive, but I'm going to tell you this, fancy will not get you a job. Substance will. The hiring community doesn't really respond to a thick paper stock if you hand them one. They don't look at the colors and go, woo, this is really pretty. They're interested in who you are, what you do, and can you do it for them. So I don't want you to get stuck on, well, this is really a good looking resume. Efficiency is what you need. What's in front of you here is efficient. So if you like a template, and again, there's no resume police. If you like the template, open up a new document and recreate it. You make the template on your Word doc, and then you can control the document. So this ends our evening portion of a resume review workshop. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see all of your wonderful faces. Well, except for two. I don't know, is it Maya? I hope I'm saying that right, but wherever Maya is, that looks like a nice place to be. So, are there any questions? Not one?
I have
I
a
was-
question. Yeah,
No,
so what would you
no,
recommend?
one. Go ahead, Lolita.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, what would you recommend for someone that studied computer science and applied math, but is looking for multiple entry-level roles like software engineering, data science, like business analyst? Like, would you recommend to make several resumes or just like have one apply to many?
Well, that's a great question. And I still believe that your stage of the game, one universal document should be, doesn't mean it always will be, but it should be sufficient. Should be. Keyword there. If it's not, you may have to really recreate a new resume, but working off the universal document you have. Now, you brought up computer science, math, but interested in data, technology, and this and that. That's the market research you need to do, Lolita. And once you understand the market, when you start to look at the industries and companies specific to what you're thinking about, if it's in the tech universe or engineering universe, you're going to look at that job market. This search engine list I send you, the handout, will help you, but you can Google search that as well. You are now going to start to read different company websites. You're going to understand who they are, what their mission statement is. You're going to be able to repurpose that language, and you're going to understand how to translate that stuff into a working resume. So the answer to the question is not a straight out, simple yes or no. There's a multidisciplinary thing you're talking about. It's several targets that you have in mind. How are you marketing yourself to that target? What's the appropriate message that you need to give? So the answer is yes, you'll change your resume. And if it requires that you have 2 or 3, then so be it. But the key, guys, is to know your marketplace. If you've got a target, then you can connect. If there's no target, how are you going to connect? And every brand, this is part of my business model, that every brand that launches a new product, a new division, a new service, or whatever, they know the market, and it's based on the data. The research is done. For those of you that know my backstory, I come out of creative services. I was a content creator for almost 30 years. In the early days, the account executive managed what now is called strategy. But strategy wasn't even a word years ago. In the last 15 or so years, there isn't an ad agency, a creative service provider, a marketing company, a branding firm that doesn't have a strategic team. It could be a team of 1 or 20, but there's someone who's just doing strategy, understanding based on data what the market is. So that's what I would like you to think about, Lolita, with that question. What's my market? Well, I'm interested in technology. I'm interested in data. Look at that market, look at that market, and see what the requirements are. The industry fluency I talked about, that's what you need to understand. And that will answer the question for you. All right. Now, let me put one more thing out there. If this is a legitimate question for more than one of you, or just Lolita, I would suggest that you make an appointment with me. We'll do a shared screen. You'll show me some links of things you're interested in. We'll look at your resume. We'll help you understand how to target. Okay? That's what we do. Anybody else?
Just kind of go without saying, but do you believe in tailoring?
Tailoring?
Yeah, as in just making modifications to a given resume depending on whichever job you're going
Darren, that's the customizing. It's just a different word. Tailor, customize, tweaking, I even said that. And it could be as subtle as a keyword or two, but it might be something a bit more significant, more in line to Lolita's question about, different specific categories, different industries even. So you should customize or tailor the resume towards what you're after. Remember my example earlier. I told you that I've had plenty of people, students and otherwise, who have said I've applied for a bunch of jobs, 5, 10, 20, I mean, as many as 50, and no response. Then I will assess the resume and I'll look at 5 job descriptions. It's obvious. There's no connection, there's no alignment, there's no symmetry. So yes, Darren, you should be considering tailoring, as you call it, or customizing the resume. It's very important, guys. It really is. There's that old expression of throwing stuff against the wall and hoping some sticks. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Hugo's smiling because he knows the word is not stuff, it's something else. But can you find a job that way? Yes, but it's a terrible use of time, guys. Time is too important. Every minute that passes is gone. We can learn from the past. We can't worry about yesterday. We learn from it, but we think about today and tomorrow. So you want to understand how that process works.